I'm Jenny Fern and welcome to my library. I am a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books. Good morning. I feel like this is the brightest my house has been in a while. It really feels like spring is happening. Today is a reading vlog. I'm just on a spree where I'm interested in editing and filming reading vlogs, so hopefully you don't mind. Today I have started reading The Symbiotic Planet by Lynn Margulis, and I already have so many things that I want to talk to you about. I feel like such a big dummy. I did not realize that Lynn Margulis was a woman, even though her name is Lynn. I thought that that could have also been a man, and I did not realize that she had married Carl Sagan. So those are two things I didn't know I would learn from this book. Gosh, I've dog-eared so much of what I've read so far. I've read like 25 pages. Every single chapter starts with a piece of an Emily Dickinson poem, so I'm going to be reading more poetry for this reading vlog. I am also noting any book that is named. I am underlining that so that I can tell you at the end. Really, really enjoying my time. I can feel the permaculture interest like thawing out and like resurfacing in a really strong way. Every spring I kind of feel this way. It is a nice enough day that our windows are open, so apologies if you hear any road noise. So I have been doing some gardening. I have been mowing off and on. I've been finding the mowing very boring. So I've also been doing a lot of trimming. I can show you. One of the things that I love about trimming when you have like a permaculture garden is that means it's harvest. So I have a bunch of rosemary and a little bit of mint as well. I did read a smidge of this while I ate my breakfast, and to say nothing of the dog is the audiobook that I'm reading right now. Actually, I just started it today, and this is very fun and humorous. I read Doomsday Book by Connie Willis a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed it. This book is also one of her time traveling books. I will say the tone of this one is very different. So enjoying this. Clover and vetch, common weeds, have little balls on their roots. These are the nitrogen-fixing bacteria that are essential for healthy growth in nitrogen-poor soil. I will show you what this looks like from the roots of some fava beans. This is what the roots look like. And you can see these white things are those nodules. It is now the evening. I have just showered, so I'm wet. Matt is at the gym. We decided to go to a park together for a little bit of a walk. So we went to one of the lakes nearby. I have some pictures to show, so I'll put those up while I'm talking. I saw like a magical tree. This tree was so cool. It's giant. I don't know if the pictures do it justice, but it was so big, this beautiful big oak tree. When we got to the other side of the lake, we were able to see that it had this giant hole in it, just like in the Korok forest or whatever. It was covered in Spanish moss, had this giant hole in it, and it was in the lake because we've gotten so much rain. It was just such a cool tree. So I did see another tree that was pretty cool. If I was a fish, I think I'd be really down for it because it basically had like a little cave that you could hide out in. And generally the scenery was just beautiful. It's very green right now. Springtime is the most beautiful time to be in California because the hills are green and the weather is amazing. So I had a really, really beautiful time. We played around. There was like some exercise equipment and some silly stuff. So we had a fun time with that. We kind of felt like, you know, like how they have like enrichment activities for zoo animals, like pandas, they'll give them like a watermelon or something. Anyway, Matt and I kind of felt like that was the experience that we were giving ourselves, like we were giving ourselves an enrichment activity. I did want to address a comment that I got. I posted a video today, so I'm getting a few comments. This one's from a few days ago, and I didn't reply to it, so it just keeps showing me it. And it says, "This video gives vibes of my mom getting paranoid that the neighbors are out to get her when they go to put the trash out. It sounds like it's best you just keep a journal and ignore the rest of the world." And the reason why I wanted to address this today is that was on my video about reading tracking apps. Like, I don't want to take this comment too seriously, but I do think it brings up an interesting topic, and it also kind of reflects on something that I saw today at the park. And just something that I've been observing recently in real life. I think community is really important, and I think being a human in the real world is really important. So, I mean, I do disagree with you. My neighbors can put their trash cans out, I don't really care. I have interactions with my neighbors where, you know, I'm out in my garden, in my front yard a lot. And so I see people a lot. And I think community is really important, and interacting with strangers is really important. Being open and amenable to interactions in real life is good for us. And that's part of the reason why I think, like, using technology and apps and stuff that are not serving us as living, breathing people, I do think it's tied together. Anyway, one of the things that I saw today was the lake is very, very full. And so where people probably wouldn't usually be able to fish, they are able to fish. And so they're butting their cars right up against the edge of the parking lot and then fishing straight out from the parking lot from like the back of their SUV or their like truck or whatever. And they have like their kids with them and like their dogs with them. And they like are within like 2 feet of their car. This was a lot of people. This was maybe like 10 different families or individuals that had this set up. Meanwhile, when you leave the parking lot, there is a beautiful park, partially flooded because, again, the lake's really high, but there's picnic tables, there's the silly little workout equipment, and there is this beautiful trail, albeit it was muddy. So I don't know if you'd want your kids going there. But there was such more beautiful places to go and so much more to experience. I think we should be less afraid and treat ourselves like human beings. And a part of that is maybe walking away from your car, maybe interfacing with other human beings. There were some guys kicking a soccer ball back and forth while we were playing around on this exercise equipment, and one of the soccer balls went out almost into the lake. Matt went out to go stop it from going into the lake, and then he slipped on the mud. And like, we had a little bit of an interaction with these people. I think is important. I do think it is important, even if interactions with other humans are small and you'll never see them again. I still think it's important that we interface with humans in real life and that we're not afraid of them. So I did want to address that comment because I think it's important for us not to be afraid of each other. I am a very introverted person and I don't exactly enjoy talking to people when I'm out in my front yard, but more and more I recognize that it is something that I should be doing. I should be saying hi to people as they walk by. I did want to clarify my position on that whole thing, just because I don't want to interface with something that I don't think is serving me well, doesn't mean that I am afraid of people and afraid of the world in general. That's what I have to say about that. Sorry, that was a little bit much, a little deep, but I thought it had to be said. Oh my god, I should mention this too. We started watching Dan, the anime, and it is phenomenal. It is an incredibly high quality show. We have also been watching Apothecary Diaries, which is an absolute guilty pleasure. And on Friday is when we get our new episodes of Apothecary Diaries. So we have like a little routine where on Friday we get to watch our new show and we're so excited about it. And then we've been limiting ourselves to one episode of Dan each day, and maybe not every day. So we were like, okay, let's watch Apothecary Diaries. And then it was like a fairly depressing subject and like not like a super fun episode. And we're like, all right, now for the fun episode of Dan. And this episode was the most heart-wrenching. For like half of this episode, I was sobbing, like inconsolable, sobbing, so stricken by this plot and this tragic story. I woke up with a headache this morning, and it was just because I sobbed my freaking heart out last night. Hey, good morning. I have been reading in bed this morning this Symbiotic Planet. I have been really enjoying my time. It looks like I'm just a little over halfway. I didn't realize how much this was going to be about microorganisms and bacteria, but it is. I love reading more historical scientific work. This was copywritten in 1998, so it's not super old, but it does have like some more of the historical information as well, because it talks about like her work in like the 60s and 70s. I love reading about that because it gives so much context about like when I was learning things in school, like I had no concept for how long established those concepts were. For example, when I read Rachel Carson's The Sea Around Us, I realized that at the time that she published that book, they did not know or agree upon the theory of plate tectonics, which is so fundamental in understanding how this planet works. In this, there's a lot of discussion about basically the kingdoms of life and organizing life into the different categories, how that is all still fairly up for discussion in this text. I have started to get a little distracted by my own brain, so I need to start doing things with my body. Here's what's happened. There is a like commercial property that is up for sale. I saw it earlier this week. It's like almost achievable. So I have been daydreaming about having my own thrift store. And so I've just been thinking about all of the cool things that could be done, like hosting furniture repair and restoration workshops, or like rebinding your broken down books workshops. I was just thinking about all of the possibilities, like if when you have bowls or like pottery or mirrors and stuff that are broken, making mosaics, and like having all these wonderful workshops around being able to use what would otherwise be waste. And I've just been thinking about how darn cool it would be to have that be my life. In order to be able to afford that kind of thing, I would have to keep working. So I wouldn't be able to do it either. So I've just been daydreaming, and maybe at some point in my life that'll be something. Hey, Al? Al. Al, more than any other cat I've ever had, eats stuff. He ate a piece of my slipper the other day. Did I tell you about how he chewed through our Ethernet cable? He's the sweetest boy, but he loves to chew on stuff. I did also check something out from my library last night. The Garden of Evening Mists by Tan Tuan Eng. I started reading this, but I fell asleep hard. I went to bed early and I fell asleep so hard. I love this statement. Some colleagues label me combative, others unfair. Some say I only collect relevant work and unfairly ignore contradictory data. These accusations may be correct. So she's talking about this idea that really the more complex cells, like plant cells and animal cells, have come to be this way from a merger of various lower level cells, like the mitochondria coming from its own lower level cell, and chloroplasts, and she's saying even things like flagella and stuff like that, she thinks are from the lower level cellular organisms kind of merged together to form this more complex cell. And there's proof for most of what she's saying, except for, at this point in time of this book, the like little motility, like flagella type cells. So I have chili powder, cumin, and garlic in here. I'm gonna put all of these flowers off of kale and stuff, and I'm gonna make it into a wrap with this thing. I'm so excited. It's got a big leaf, it's got hummus, and then it's got the little like florets from my kales, my various kales in the yard that are going to flower. Something is going wrong with my battery. I'm gonna try to talk really quickly, and then I'm gonna have to fix whatever is happening. But Matt got this ramen that is plant-based and soy-free, which is insane. It's been an incredibly long time since I've had ramen because I have a soy allergy, and I'm also vegetarian. So I had shrimp-flavored ramen, and oh my god, I love it. I love the experience of being able to have ramen again. And I don't even care if it's like not that great. I've heard that the texture is kind of weird, but I'm so happy to be able to eat something that I haven't had since literally middle school. So anyway, I'm gonna eat this and probably read a little bit more. We're planning on going on another walk today to a different park. I don't think I have checked in since this morning. Today was a really, really beautiful day. The weather has been so stunning. And we decided to go to another park and to go explore the woods a little bit. It was stunningly beautiful. There was a lot of running water, which was really like beautiful to hear. So many ferns, so many beautiful wildflowers as well. So many butterflies that I've never seen before. That was amazing. And we went up to a meadow. I've been having some really satisfying naps after going on these walks, and I'm so happy for myself that I've been feeling so fulfilled. Hello, it is Monday, and I wanted to give a check-in because I didn't finish reading this book over the weekend. I read a little bit of it last night before falling asleep. I've been sleeping so well. Springtime does wonders for me. This week is going to rain, however, so I'm going to be doing a little bit more indoor activities. I'm now on page 102, which I will say is not that much farther than when I checked in last time. What I really actually did want to check in about is my chess progress, because I do certainly have chess progress. Let me talk about why I started playing chess. Now the algorithm has hooked me and is promoting me all sorts of chess people to watch. By looking at the comments on those, I can see that there's a lot of people who take chess incredibly seriously. I just want to be very upfront that I do not. And the reason why I started playing chess is because I was playing this silly little game on the YouTube playables. So I'd like listen to videos and play these little games. It's just like a way to unwind, especially because I got rid of Instagram. I was playing this game and it glitched out and I got stuck, and I was so upset because I got invested in this game. Chess was really just the game that I chose for myself to be entertainment while I was listening to YouTube videos, and just like something, a little fun, like lighthearted thing to play. Immediately after I started playing chess, I started dreaming about chess. I started becoming obsessed. Anyway, I got the subscription to chess.com because I was like, I need access to puzzles, I need access to training, and I got super into it. But I was still really, really bad at it. And I'm still horrified of playing games. So here you can see my little puzzles progress. So I'm in the stone level, and I'm on level 14. A ton of the puzzles are endgame, like how to get a checkmate. So I'm actually way more confident in understanding how to get a checkmate now. And I did a little bit of learning, some lessons to understand a little bit about openings. I need to take more lessons, but the problem is that I am doing this as just like a fun little thing. So to actually dive into the lessons takes a lot of willpower. I've been playing the adaptive guy, Jimmy. I have never played a game with a real person, and I just beat Jimmy, and my game rating was 1300. I was so proud of myself. Immediately before this game, I got checkmated so quickly. Didn't even see it coming, just obliterated. And then I beat Jimmy. I'm so proud of myself. That's my little chess update. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Half of me is okay, I'm just playing chess for fun. But then the other half of me is I could study and I could get really good. And I am battling that side of me, which is maybe a little too intense. And I'm trying to be content with learning as I go for the love of these little puzzles to play. So that is where I'm at with my little chess journey. I just picked some more daffodils, so I'm gonna refresh the bouquet with these. Just thought I would say hello. Just spent some time in the garden, picked some salsify roots. I have a bunch of really small radishes to also prepare, and with radishes I really like to do ferments, and that's so much work, but I'm either gonna have to do it or throw them all away. Hello. I am gonna take a shower very shortly. I just took my dog out and it's really cold and also rained a lot today, so it's a wet cold. So anyway, I'm gonna try to warm up in the shower and also wash my hair. I want to set up my microscope because I was thinking about how fun it would be to look at some cells, especially because I've been reading this book. I think about the most random things in the car. So there are these plum trees that have like dark burgundy to like purple. I don't know how to describe this color, but they're the plum trees that have these like dark reddish leaves. And I have a plum tree myself that I planted from a seed that has grown into having this darker foliage. And I was thinking, I would love to look at those cells under the microscope and see if I can get any sense of like if this color is like distributed or like what it looks like under a microscope. So that's the first thing that I was thinking. And then I was like, oh my god, of course I should be looking at cells under the microscope, because then I could share some of that with you guys and we could look at some cells together as I discuss the Symbiotic Planet. So I'm going to tuck into the shower, and then I have to clear off my desk to be able to put my microscope on it. So I am here at my microscope. I just got one of the leaves that I was talking about, and it's actually very beautiful. There is this variation where there's redder spots and greener spots. Okay, so I have the leaf on here, and I'm looking at it under, what is this, a 4x objective, and yeah, you can clearly see there are greener spots and pinker spots. You really get a better sense of how like three-dimensional objects like leaves are when you try to look at them under high magnification, because just that little, I mean, you think it's so thin, but then when you start looking at all the cells together, you really see that they've got a little bit more structure going on. And you can see I'm like right on, well, maybe you can't see, I'm like right on that glass. It's Friday. I took a nap. I was dead asleep for a period of time. And I had been reading The Symbiotic Planet, and then I think my dog like whined or something. I woke up, and then I finished reading The Symbiotic Planet. I have so much to talk about. I loved this book. It is a little bit all over the place, but I loved it. Each chapter is about what it's about, but we go so small and so broad in one book. The jumping in scale surprised me, I suppose. You are reading quite a lot about like really, really small life forms. And then there's a chapter, the last one, which is about Gaia theory. The Earth, it just cannot be looked at as a place without considering that there is so much life influencing what the planet is. One of the examples in this book is that there is too much methane in our atmosphere for it to be like naturally chemically stable. And the only reason we have so much methane in our atmosphere is because it's constantly being produced and replaced through life processes. I have so many dog ears. Recent work in mathematics called fractal geometry shows that elaborate graphics can be made not by an artist with a finished idea, but by repetitions of simple computer steps called algorithms. Life produces fascinating designs in a similar way by repeating the chemical cycles of its cellular growth and reproduction. Order is generated by non-conscious, repetitious activities. Just that sentence, order is generated by non-conscious, repetitious activities. Good Lord. It is so cool. I have to give you an update on my microscope journey that I took the other night, But before that, I want to take a brief detour. Lynn Margulis, her first husband was Carl Sagan, and her son, Dorian Sagan, she has written many books with Dorian Sagan, and she refers to many books that she's written with Dorian Sagan. Here, I was reading the Wikipedia page for Lynn Margulis because I did find this book so interesting, and there is a little bit about herself that I thought was quite interesting. I found out that this author is also a son of Carl Sagan, and that's Nick Sagan. And I read Idlewild in 2009. For reference, 2009 is when I first started dating my husband. I had no idea who this was. And I've had this book that entire time, and I just had no idea that was Carl Sagan's son, who also wrote episodes of Star Trek Voyager, which is my favorite Star Trek. This maybe isn't super crazy, but Lynn Margulis very explicitly talks about Star Trek, and she's just like, this doesn't make any sense at all. They are in a ship. Where is the environment? Where is the ecosystem? Now let me talk to you about our microscope excursion we took the other day. I am actually so happy I decided to look into that question that I had, which was basically what's going on inside these purple leaves on the plum trees. Like, what is happening? You can see that there are cells that are more pigmented with this red pink color, and there are more cells that are pigmented green. You go in to these kind of pinkish reddish cells, and when you really look, you can see that there are isolated packets of pink inside the cells. That was so cool to be able to see. So then the other day I looked into it, I read about it a little bit. So it is anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are flavonoid pigments synthesized in the cytoplasm and stored inside vacuoles. So those little packets that we're seeing are the vacuoles, which is really cool. Many plant species accumulate densely packed 3 to 10 micron diameter anthocyanin deposits called anthocyanin vacuolar inclusions. In looking at this first myself, I was able to observe that before I even read about it. And then reading about it, I was like, oh yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I think I'm going to set aside for myself tomorrow all of these Emily Dickinson poems. I don't have very much time on this SD card, so I'll try to make it brief. Last night I finished reading this, and this morning I decided to read every poem. As mentioned in the prologue, all chapter epigraphs are quotations from Emily Dickinson. They have the numbers from the complete book of poems of Emily Dickinson. So the poems that are the epigraphs, to tell you what the poems are, I'll either refer by that number or the first line. The first one is Time Does Go On, and that's 1121. I love this one. Let me read it for you. Time does go on. I tell it gay to those who suffer now. They shall survive. There is a sun. They don't believe it now. This just reminds me of a feeling that I had quite a lot when I was a teenager, having a very good friend of mine who was just suffering with depression quite severely. The next one is 1339, and the first line is, a bee his burnished carriage drove boldly to a rose. And just that line itself is perfect. I also love this one. This is 1688. The hills erect their purple heads. The hills erect their purple heads. The rivers lean to sea. Yet man has not of all the throng a curiosity. The next one was Low at My Problem Bending, and this was number 69. Just don't understand this one at all. I have no idea what's going on. The next one, I don't know what number this is, but it starts with Much madness is divinest sense. I understand this one, but I didn't quite enjoy it. And then I feel like I'm missing something in this next one. It's what mystery pervades a well. I love the line that's used in the book. It fit so well. I thought this fits so well at this beginning of this chapter. It's called Life from Scum. What mystery pervades a well, that water lives so far, like looking every time you please in an abyss's face. That takes the first two lines from the first stanza and the last two lines in the second stanza, and this has 6 stanzas, and I don't even know what is going on. There's this line here: but nature is a stranger yet, the ones that sight her most have never passed her haunted house, nor simplified her ghost. And I think that's very interesting wording, but I have no idea what's going on there. And then we have when a lover is a baker, that's 1314. That was pretty interesting as well. And superfluous were the sun, this is 999. There is a beautiful line in here at the very end: as stars that drop anonymous from an abundant sky. There is no silence in the earth, which is quite short, and I don't really understand it at all. That was the Emily Dickinson tie-in, and the very last thing that I owe you is the list of books that she names within the text. The very first one is On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, which I do own. Then there is a scientific book referred to called Plant Animals by Keeble. I'm quite interested in that. There was The Cell in Development and Heredity by E.B. Wilson. There's something referred to as the Mayonnaise book by Harold J. Morowitz, and I'm so intrigued by that I just had to write it down even though it wasn't a real title. It is called Mayonnaise and the Origin of Life, Thoughts of Minds and Molecules by H.J. Morowitz. Doesn't that sound so incredibly interesting? Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. This has been on my list for quite a while. I love Rachel Carson's writing in The Sea Around Us, and she's referred to a lot, especially in the environmental space, but also in the insect space. So I'm super curious about reading that book. There was a very interesting reference to Lord of the Flies by William Golding, because the term Gaia for the Gaia theory was brought to attention to James Lovelock by William Golding. So very, very interesting that. And then all of the books that she references that either she and her son or her son wrote are Microcosmos, The Origins of Sex, and Biospheres. The very last thing I wanted to mention was that quote, her criticism of Star Trek. If people ever journey for extended periods in outer space, the endeavor will never be as machinate and barren as Star Trek. The vision of sterile engineering emancipating us from our planet mates is not only tasteless and boring, it borders on the hideous. No matter how much our own species preoccupies us, life is a far wider system. Life is an incredibly complex interdependence of matter and energy among millions of species beyond and within our own skin. Love it. I love Star Trek, but that line is excellent. That is such a wonderful way to say that. And now I have a very, very minimal time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I had such a wonderful time. If you did enjoy this, please consider sharing it with a friend who you think would also enjoy it. Consider liking and subscribing. I will be back again soon.